Evening. Welcome to the program. I'm Buddy Martin. This is the Buddy Martin Show, a Wednesday night edition. Hope you're joining us tonight. Looking forward to that. And in just a moment, Allie Peak Wilbur will join us. We'll talk about what a tremendous weekend it was for Florida. If you put it in a pigeonhole and said it's just one win, no, you're completely wrong. You missed it. Things happened all around that Gator universe on Saturday, and they're still happening, and more good things to come. I know Allie understands it. So if you think that was just one win and just a 5-5 team, you don't know what you're talking about. Stand by in a minute. Allie will be here. We'll have Chris Doring, who had finally got to collect on his bet with Peter Burns, thankfully. And our good friend and good writer, Carlton Reese, joins us talking about somebody who just resigned, a name you'll know because he's a former Florida coach. So stay tuned. It's all coming your way right here, right now on a Wednesday night edition of the Buddy Martin Show. Glad to be with you. It's going to be a fun night. And boy, I tell you, they're coming out of the woodwork. They're going to be everywhere right here. Join us on the Buddy Martin Show next.
For Buddy Martin, call him up and tell him what you're thinking. But be kind because he's doing the best he can.
Better, stronger, faster.
Mama says that alligators are ornery because they got all them teeth but no toothbrush.
Hey, what if the voice calls while you're gone?
Take a message.
Bye.
You ready, champ?
I'm ready for this my whole life.
I'm incapable of small talk. But that's why you love me, right?
Kind of intimidating to be in the presence of so many great athletes.
Good evening. Welcome to the program. I'm here back in my second night of broadcasting here in this beautiful Airbnb in Ocala, Florida. Thanks to the folks at Blue Heron, JT, and the gang. And we'll be here throughout this and next week. And, of course, we'll be Saturday at the game, a noon kickoff. All of a sudden, there's some excitement about Florida football. What could it possibly be? Maybe the fact that recruiting has changed a little bit. All you folks just always not really don't mean anything to beat LSU. Guess what? It did. It changed a lot of things. And for even you people who kind of poo-pooed Steve Spurrier's effort to rally the troops and to get people excited, who said it was really kind of silly, wrong again. Words change things. And I'm not saying it was another SEC championship, but I said this before. I said it on Shane's show. Said it on my show. I said it again today. I put it down and I talked to a couple of good friends of mine in terms of one game and what it meant, what was on the line at that time. I say it was the top 10 of all time, and I'll tell you why. And maybe Allie will agree with me. Maybe she won't. I think she's laughing at me already. Let's see. Let's go find her and find out. Allie Pete Wilbur on the program, and she does Peak of the Gators, and she's smiling. That's a good thing. I've been watching some of her podcasts. She was pretty happy about what happened. And Allie, you can put it in perspective among other ways, just in recruiting. All of a sudden, it's Flipperooski out there. Some things coming Billy Napier's way.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you win, good things happen, right? And that everything is trending in a positive direction for Florida right now.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't see it coming this way. I did see it coming Florida's way as a win because I wrote and predicted. I'm no oracle. I'm not trying to prove how smart I am. That if Lagway plays, Florida wins the game. And that's exactly what happened. And my two guys, the ones I love so much, Jaden Bow and DJ Lagway, came through like champs. Mm-hmm. It was one of the most exciting nights or days, I should say, felt like a night, in the swamp in a long time. Allie, tell me how it felt to you.
I would say it probably hasn't been that loud since Auburn in 2019. I mean, I think you can put Tennessee last year and Utah a couple of years ago, close, but I don't think that it, It's been a few years, and I think the difference is that it was consistently loud and intense and just on fire in that stadium. And Florida fans sell out every week. They show up, but if you're not giving them something to cheer about, it doesn't always feel like that, earthquake that's about to happen. But when you put a good product on the field, your fans are going to be 1,000% behind you. And I tweeted this, but when that stadium is at its best, it is the best stadium in college football. And I think we saw that on Saturday.
I mean, the songs sounded better.
Mm-hmm.
The crowd seemed more excited.
Yeah.
The air smelled a little fresher. It just felt like, I wouldn't say old days, but it kind of reminded you a little bit of the day when there were happy times in the swamp. And I love the fact that Steve Spurrier went on a line and tried to do something. Some people laughed at him. So that's ridiculous. It didn't mean anything. But Billy Napier said it did matter. And the players knew about it. I'm not going to say it was earth shaking.
Sure.
Everybody's trying to do their fair share to do something to get a fire lit there. And Spurrier's offer to help shepherd the people down on Swarm the Swamp, was gallant. Nobody took him up. But it was kind of a slap in his face that they kept putting those signs up there on the billboard.
Listen, this is maybe the first time that I've ever disagreed with Steve Spurrier in my 40 years of life, but I think that storming the field is for doing something you've never done before. And Florida beating LSU should not be abnormal, right? And I don't think there's a team in the country that Florida should ever storm the field when they beat, because we expect it. If Vanderbilt beats Alabama, I am all for them carrying those uprights down Broadway. I am fine with that because it was a once in a 50-year win, right? That is not what it is when you beat LSU. This is more restoring the order. But I understand what he's trying to do, and he's trying to fire him up. And, these players may not know that we think we're above storming the field, and it might fire them up. And even if they didn't really think the fans were going to storm the field, I think it set the expectation of Spurrier that, like, we can do this, we should do this. And then when it does happen, let's 100% be behind this team. And I think that message was absolutely received by fans and players.
The guy who set the standard, who's the field is named after.
I bet he would never encourage them to storm the field when he was the coach, though, because
You see, the thing about it, it's not the fact that they did or didn't.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that he was willing to concede that he thought it'd be okay if they did.
Yeah.
And, it's not the act itself. It's the willingness, generosity of spirit to say, it's like when he gave his number 11 away.
Hey, this is the same guy that unretired his own jersey. So him being, willing and able to do whatever necessary for the Florida Gators is nothing new, for Spurrier. But I do, anytime the ball coach speaks, Gator Nation listens, and they should. They owe him that.
What he said. And that, look, I don't care what people say about me. They laugh at me, call me Mr. Sunshine Pumper. Hey, I'm going to say, who told you about DJ Lagway? Who told you about Jaden Ball? I didn't wait till it happened.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying I was an oracle or take credit for anything, but when I did that, people went, "Are you kidding me? You didn't play the Buddy Martin's always saying." Look, I know what I see and what I think. You're willing to speak out in your boldness. I think an act like Spurrier was simply done for impact. I mean, how about those fans who say, who do those Gators think they are? They haven't done jack lately. They're old news. Not even the top 4 or 5 teams in the conference. And you've got to get off your high horse and recognize that we may think that about Florida, but not many other people outside of Florida do. So that's called arrogance, and you got to be aware of arrogance. Arrogance will bring you down. It has in this program before. So anyway, I'm not here to die on that hill. I'm not here to make a statement. I just loved that he did it. I thought it was really gallant that he did it. And if Billy Napier says that players were impacted by it, who am I to say? He said that.
Sure.
So, and someone on the show that they said, on Shane's show, said, well, that's nothing. Nobody cares. That didn't affect it. Doesn't move the needle, whatever. And somebody said, what about Tim Tebow's speech when he made it? Did that impact anybody? No, I mean, the point is that words passion can move people.
100%.
And sometimes you think you're above it all. Oh, we're Florida. Florida Gators ain't jack right now. Now they're getting there. All of a sudden, that's what we're here to talk about tonight. That is turning the page on recruiting. Flip a Rooski this weekend. They're still coming.
Mhm.
I would like you to sort of bear down on that, if you would, and say good evening to all my buddies here, the Bruce Green and Ramon Bernhard and Toby Parmenter, Tommy Seal, Mr. Bassman, Christopher, all you folks. Thanks for tuning in tonight. The shows have been really great lately, and you all have been supporting it. All right, Allie, catch me up.
Well, there have been a lot of commitments lately. We got Tramel Jones is kind of what kicked it off, and he had been committed to Florida State, decommitted, and immediately committed to Florida. He's been somebody that the staff has really been on hard. He, was kind of taking secret visits to UF when he was committed to Florida State and still kind of talking to coaches, even though he had publicly said he was shutting it down. And so we knew that there was a chance for this to happen. He's teammates with Vernell Brown III, who I have been told VB3 gets all the credit for this flip. And I'm sure he was kind of waiting to see what happened. And I think maybe the vote of confidence from Scott Strickland gave him the courage to kind of pull the trigger on this. And then Stefan Shivers committed next. This is
big old defensive lineman.
Big, 6'4.5", 380. Hilarious stat about him is that he plays running back every once in a while for his high school. Can you imagine a 380-pound running back?
I like it. Yes, I can.
And I will say, so he's a 3-star everywhere but ESPN. ESPN has him as a 4-star. But I do really feel like Billy Napier, one of the things he does best is evaluate talent. And I think Jaden Baugh is a great example of that. I have been on the Jaden Baugh train since the spring game when he just looked so good. And you think about the fact that was a 17-year-old kid that should be getting ready for prom. And I know it's just a spring game, but he looked great then. And that's a 3-star guy, right? Not everybody fighting over him. And he's performing better than I would say any freshman 5-star in college football. So that was a hit on that evaluation. After Shivers, we flipped Daniel Pierre-Louis from Florida State, and that was a big pickup. He's an offensive lineman. They lost their offensive coordinator, their O-line coach, and so that's a big deal in recruitment, right? And I'm sure that's part of it, but we continued these conversations. And outside of evaluating talent, the next thing that I think Napier does best is build those relationships, and they do matter in this era that we're in recruiting, where kids change their mind or they commit 2 years early and then, see other things as it gets closer to signing day. And then same thing with transfer portal. You can end up with guys that you were maybe the second hat on the table when they were high school recruits. And then you get them on the go round, like with Pup Howard is exactly what happened. So I have been told that we aren't done yet. I have been told we're stealing someone from Texas. So we'll see if that actually happens, or if maybe he decommits and then commits to us. But I've been told we're not done. There's still a long way to go. This class is probably going to be somewhere between 18 and 20 kids. I can't imagine that it's larger than 20. That's going to make it difficult to finish higher than probably 15th. No matter who we pick up, because not only is it based on quality, but it's also based on quantity. And 18 to 20 guys is a smaller class than we have signed in previous years, but that's what we have scholarship wise. And we're trying to save scholarships for guys that we want to come in and contribute immediately, that we'll hopefully be picking up in the transfer portal as soon as that window opens. Interested to see if he moves faster in the transfer portal. That's kind of been the knock on Napier the last couple of years, is that, yes, he's gotten some great hits. I would say we've probably hit the very best in wide receiver the last 2 years, but we've gotten some great D linemen as well. But his evaluation process has taken too long. And with the transfer portal, you want to be the first visit. In high school recruiting, you want to be the last visit before signing day. But in the transfer portal, you want to be the first one, because a lot of times they don't make it to the second one. And that's been a downfall of Florida the last couple of seasons. So hopefully that speed changes, but they can pick up some, missing pieces and look out in 2025.
I don't think it matters as much, for obvious reasons, if you've got the transfer portal going for you and if you use it the correct way.
Mm-hmm.
The correct way is not to build your whole team around
It's not to do what Florida State's doing.
what FSU tried to do, but to fill in the holes
Yeah.
once you get your recruits. That seems to work. It takes a little longer.
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps we'll see how it affects Ole Miss.
Mm-hmm.
And work well for Ole Miss, but some blend of that. And
Mm-hmm.
Billy Napier made a statement in the locker room, and he showed the video. And he made a point to say this. I think he told his players, you need something character to stand on to get where you are right here, to accomplish what you've got. He feels like because they hung together. By the way, that's the most remarkable thing about this, how they've hung together.
Mm-hmm.
And DJ Lagway deserves a lot of that credit because he recruited a lot of those guys. They hung together. They believed in him.
Mm-hmm.
And it's amazing they've been able to hold it together during the storm.
Yeah.
So that's why I say it's such an important win. If they had lost the game, if they'd have fired Billy, DJ Lagway would have been gone. Now you're 10 years behind the program, and that one game that you won could have saved that. So that's why it's a big, big win, Allie. It's not just a nice win, another beat LSU. It's not about they beat LSU. It's about when they won the game. As I said today to somebody, when you went on the desert for a week and you haven't had a drink of water, someone comes along, gives you a spoonful of water, tastes pretty darn good. Florida's been on the desert for a while. This really, really rejuvenates your program. Gets it where it will go, I don't know. I'm just saying I like what I'm seeing. I like the young players. I've liked them beforehand. I like them more now. I like how they're being used. And I just want someone the way Lagway threw two long passes was remarkable. The way those are unbelievable throws and reads. Especially when he stepped up on in the pocket and threw.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing. And I heard people say who are not Florida people like Dusty Dvorak and whatever, who talk about, wow, I don't think I've seen that throw from anybody, let alone a freshman. And I think Carlton Brees will join us in a minute. He wrote this. He's right. The fact that Florida's going to get the Jones kid from FSU and have DJ gives them the two best young quarterbacks in the country. Pretty good.
Well, that is that's some big words. I don't know. The jury will still be out on Jones, and I think obviously he's going to have to do a lot to be comparable to Lagway. But yeah, I think Lagway comes back as a top 5 quarterback in college football next year as a true sophomore, which is pretty important. And I've had a lot of talks with his family and his high school coaches and stuff, and I do believe that regardless of what happened with Billy Napier, that DJ Lagway would have stayed at the University of Florida, but it's going to be so much better if he gets to stay with the coach that recruited him and he gets to hold together that class, because I guarantee you not everybody in that class is quite as loyal as he is to the University of Florida. But yeah, he made some throws that there's probably 5 guys total, including him, in college football right now that could even attempt that throw. And he's a true freshman. He's only going to get better. It's hard to see how he doesn't end up in New York if the trajectory, continues over the course of his career. And I think it was a big win. I do. I saw some things that I still want improvement on. I still don't find it acceptable that there are procedural penalties and this many in crucial moments in year 3 of a coaching staff. I don't think the 12 men on the field substitution penalties again is acceptable. I don't think some of these offsides at, crucial moments, or having to call a timeout coming out of, a fumble, so you've already had the time to switch your guys out and stuff. Some of those things I do still have questions on. But I talked to the Clay County Gator Club last night, and one of the things that I said was, we're kind of at this crossroads, right? Scott Strickland gave his vote of confidence to Napier, which at the very least gives some stability to where we are. And now we're at a point where we can say, okay, this rebuild has taken longer than we wanted it to. It's taken longer than it did at Colorado or at Indiana or at some of these other places. But we are seeing the upward trajectory now. So do we knock it down and start over because we're pissed that it took too long to get to this point and we still have questions? Or Now that we're here and we're moving up, do we just say, okay, it did take too long to get to this point, but we're improving. So let's go ahead and ride this and see where it goes. And that's kind of where I am at this moment. I still have questions. I think there are changes that have now happened that should have happened 2.5 years ago, or at least 2 years ago. But now they have happened. And so now I'm interested to see it play out. And, if they beat Florida State, they're to that exact mark that you and I were sitting here in July talking about, saying was the bar. And it's not the standard. There's a difference between saying this is the minimum that we allow for you to come back, and this is the standard. And I get called a sunshine pumper a lot as well. And it's there's a difference. You and I are not saying our standard is 6-6, but what we are saying is we were told the administration would be wanting to see a year 4 if we got to at least 6-6. And I do think that's going to happen, but I honestly think 7-5 is possible. I think that we have a chance on Saturday, and then we do that. Let's say we go 7-5 and then we win a bowl game. You could have told any of us 8-5 in July, and we would have been like, hot damn, let's see year 4. We're excited about this.
Well, 7-5 was coach of the year, remember?
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, the problem, I think, overall, truly, is the fact that we just looked so unprepared in 2 of our first 3 games after hearing about this intense and incredible.
No doubt about it. But did you just hear what Nick Saban said about Billy on game day?
I did. I mean, I also listened to what he said about him on game day a couple weeks before too. So I kind of take it all.
Well, I mean, things change. Things change almost every week here in this league.
Sure, they do. And I do think, though, same record, but we were in those 2 games closer. And if we play those 2 games again tomorrow, I 100% believe we could potentially win, or at the very least, it would be a dogfight.
Could be. You're right. Yeah.
That's the problem.
Yeah. All right. So stand by for a second. I want to tell folks, no, I don't have an injury report. Maybe you do. I haven't heard it yet. I'll look at them and see when I get. They usually file them on Wednesday. The injury reports. We'll take a look. I've got Carlton Reese standing by. He'll join us. He's the guy who said he thought having those 2 young quarterbacks on. And I heard Dvorak and other people saying online, who were non-Florida people, that there's flatly the best quarterback in the country next year is going to be DJ Lagway. These are not Florida people either, by the way, just so you know. So these are not sunshine pumpers like Buddy and Allie. These are people who have outside jobs. All right, so stand by for a second while I tell you folks about our friends at Meldon Law. Couldn't be a better bunch of people. They're always there to help. I've been very pleased myself using Meldon Law for legal things. An exceptionally good group of people. And when I want to know something, I can find it out. I also want to say that I laud Jeffrey for being so generous in his giveaways. My goodness, on his Facebook page, he's giving away tickets, and gymnastics coming up soon. And those tickets are hard to get. He gives away gymnastics tickets and Gator tickets, and he gave away a trip. And he enjoys it more than anybody. So if you need that, that's one thing. If you need good legal advice or a review on a matter, you need to get a hold of the folks at Meldon Law. They're located in 4 places right now to serve you: Ocala, Gainesville, Williston, and Lake City. Meldon Law, they won't back down either. Let's go find this guy and see in his day, he didn't back down very much. He ain't backing down tonight, saying Florida may have the 2 best young quarterbacks next year. Allie, say hello to Carlton Reese.
Hey, Carlton, how are you?
Hello, Allie. Hey, buddy. For the record, it wasn't the 2 best young quarterbacks. It was the best 1-2 punch combination of young quarterbacks.
Okay,
so,
I got you. I'm sorry.
A little different on that.
Yeah. Okay, I'm wrong. You're right, as usual. Anyway, it's Carlton has been one of those guys laying back in his evaluations of Napier. And he has justifiably been critical, as some of us has at different times. Look, I said 2 weeks ago he was a dead man walking, and I was ready to give up on him then. So I myself am guilty of going back and forth. Allie, you've been very critical of Billy. Where do we stand now? I am absolutely convinced at this moment he is the right person, and he deserves this year he's going to get, and it could be turned around. That's where I am on it right now, and I say kudos to Scott Strickland for not listening to me, for doing what he thought was the right thing. Allie, what do you think?
So I'm not sold that he's the guy, but I think he's done enough that I'm interested in seeing more at this point. My biggest concern is that I think it takes him too long to make the changes that are obvious to everybody else. And my long-term concern with that is there will be problems that continue to arise, because they always do, in college football. And it's kind of adapt or die. And so will it take too long to adapt to whatever those new challenges are? And that is my concern. But I like what I see. I like the product on the field. I said all along that 6-6 was enough for year 4. So I can't back out on that now, just because I didn't like the way some of those games went. I need to see more team discipline, win or lose. I need to see more team discipline, because that's what he told me I was going to see from the beginning, a detail-oriented team. And I need these momentum-killing penalties that are preventable to stop. But I like what I see right now, and I want to see what happens in the transfer portal. I think he finishes probably between 15th and 20th with this high school recruiting class, which I think is about the best that he possibly can with the time that's left and the number of scholarships that he's going to be willing to give. So I'm good with high school recruiting. Like you've checked that box for me for this year, salvaged what you could for sure. What are you going to do in the transfer portal, and what changes are you willing to make this offseason?
Carlson.
Yeah, I agree with Allie. I'm not convinced that he's the man, but I'm not convinced that he's not the guy either. I just, week 1 and week 3 count just as much as week 9 and week 10 and 11. You've got to have your team prepared at the beginning of the year, or you flush a season. You can flush a season. And that's what I'm looking for next year is a better start. If they get off to a slow start next year, I don't see how Napier survives, not with a guy like DJ Lagway as your quarterback and the weapons that they're going to have. I liked the personnel coming into this year. I didn't like the schedule they were going to have to face, but I thought with this personnel, you're going to get a win or two, probably against one of those big teams that you're going to not be favored to win against. And you might even blow a game like to Kentucky, like we're used to doing. But I thought, 6-7 wins to me was very doable. I thought 8 was a wild shot. Mm-hmm. And, so I think if we look back, they have a chance to be 7-5, 6-6, they lose to Ole Miss. Is that supposed to be good enough? Because we are trending in the right way. I think the trend being correct is why Napier stays, mm-hmm. In addition to these young players that are committed to him. I mean, if you throw out Napier, you throw the baby out with the bathwater. You can forget about 2025. That's what I said in my column was, if you thought the September of 2024 season was painful, wait till you start 2025, without DJ Lagway, with a head coach that right now is, probably on some podcast panel in a recruiting class that's not even in the top 50. I'd rather have Napier, even if I don't think he might be the man in the long term. 2025 needs to be salvaged and given a chance.
I think, something you said about these young guys being bought in, and then I see Bruce Green commented, Allie, these players love Napier regardless of what you think. And I think this is an important point. They do love Napier. And I think that that's important. And I think it's important. You can look at what's going on at Florida State versus what's going on here. And it would have been easy for these guys to give in and just throw the towel in on the season. And they didn't. Absolutely. But I will tell you why that is not the end all be all for me. I know for a fact that Channing Crowder dog cussed Jeremy Foley when he fired Ron Zook. Eric Wilbur was pissed and was going to hate Urban Meyer when they fired Ron Zook. And there is a bajillion of those guys that ended up in the 2006 title that felt the same way. They did not want Zook fired. And what Eric will tell you is, we didn't know what we didn't know. Yeah. And, they know what it's like to play for Napier. They know he's a good guy. None of us would argue with that at all. They love him. But that does not necessarily mean, whoever your coach is, that they are getting the best out of you.
Yeah, you're right. I think the last people you want to ask sometimes are the players themselves. The players can't see the forest through the trees. Yeah.
And they don't have anything
what you get
to in a lot of cases either. And when Zook's players thought they were giving 100% effort all the time, and then Meyer came in, and Eric's like, we were probably at 40% of what our best
Right.
is. But we thought it was 100%. And then Myers showed us where we could get, if we really tried and pushed ourselves past our limits. And somebody commented that Muschamp. Yes, my brother played for Muschamp. My brother loved Muschamp, would run through a wall for Muschamp to this day. And honestly, I've talked to a lot of guys from Mullen that were pissed Mullen was fired. And, I know that there are some that felt like he threw the towel in. Most players love their head coach. It's who they spend the majority of their time.
Not the LSU players.
Not the LSU players, potentially not the Florida State players either.
Right.
But I think it's important. I just don't think it's the end all be all.
Yeah. The only point I would make on that is I think the only reason I mentioned these players is for them sticking around. I think if you say, hey, Napier's got to go, then you're de facto saying, well, then Lagway's got to go too, and so do these other guys. In today's transfer portal world,
you can move a lot faster.
The coach has to recruit his own players every year,
and that's true.
That's going to be a big problem.
But I'll tell you, Lagway wasn't going anywhere either way. But that doesn't mean the whole rest of the team wasn't potentially. And and we may still see some guys because other universities throw money at you and tell you things about your coach and whatever else.
Yeah.
But the majority will stay, and it's worth a look for 2025.
Well, guys, hang on 1 second. I don't think he's able to get access to camera, but somewhere in here is Chris Doring, I know. Let's see if he can hear us. Chris, can you hear us?
Yeah, I got you. You can't. Let's see what's going on.
Picture. We got your audio.
Hang on.
It's I don't know if you guys keep digging. And I was trying to find a picture today too, the picture of Peter Burns, which was a beautiful thing.
There we go.
There he is. There
we go.
What's up, City? Say hello to Allie and Carlton.
What's up, y'all? How you doing?
Hey, Chris, great.
Well, you settled the score, Jack. That was a beautiful thing. If you haven't seen this, I tried to call up the picture, couldn't get it. And after getting his brains beat out for 5 years on the bet with Peter Burns on SEC Nation, CD got his revenge big time. And watching him bounce into that control room, that little triangle with the Gator band picture was a beautiful sight. I'm sure you got that framed somewhere.
Oh, I got it everywhere. He was a good sport. I give him a lot of credit. He had some fun with it. It was a long time coming. 0-6 in Florida LSU bets, but well worth the wait. And man, the drama with the UPS delivery actually added even more anxiety to the whole thing. So I'm glad it worked out, man. It was perfect timing. The only thing that would have been better, I was hoping we could get Coach Napier on, because I've had to do that interview in different outfits with Brian Kelly on that 2-shot too many times. So I was hoping we'd get Napier on while he was in the band uniform, but it didn't quite work out.
Explain the UPS thing for those who didn't see the show. It was perfect the way it played out. There was some drama. I thought that was part of the script. You were setting it up that way.
No, a couple things.
We don't have the.
Yeah, a couple things. I want to give shout out to the Florida band director, everybody over there. Like, we proposed this bet to Florida and LSU. I'm gonna go ahead and turn LSU in a little bit. They would not play along. They wouldn't give us the band outfit. So that's kind of why we didn't necessarily announce the bet. He had that male LSU cheerleader outfit that I was gonna have to wear if we didn't come through with the dub. But it's so much better. The band outfit was just perfect. And literally, our buddy Paul Vasile over at Gator Boosters mailed it to the studio, sent it out Thursday for overnight delivery on Friday. It didn't show up Friday. Then we get the announcement that it's not going to be delivered until Monday, sometime between 10 o'clock and 12:30. Well, the show's over at 11. So I tweeted at UPS on Sunday, and Sergio from UPS took it in his hands, and they got that thing out there and on the truck and delivered right before the 10 o'clock segment, which was when we were going to do it anyway. So it could not have played out any better.
Shout out to Sergio. We've all been there with that UPS thing before, sweating bullets. It was such a perfect thing and a perfect timing. Would have been terrible if it hadn't shown up. And I got to give it to Peter Burns. He did a nice little prance there.
He did. You know what they say, man? No such thing as bad press. That dude loves attention. So probably wasn't as painful as he probably made it out to be.
Well, you got your fair share for 5 years. Tell everybody what you've had to do now.
Oh, man, we went through – originally it was kind of that Mr. Peanut outfit with the monocle. We had to do what did we do? Joe Exotic. We did like a yodeler. We did a turkey. We did the sad clown. And maybe still to this day, the
Baseball.
best bet. And, yeah, the baseball uniform, walking through the airports and having to sit on the plane. And I got upgraded to, like, the seat where you're right in the front when everybody walks in, like 1D. It was pretty humiliating. The flight attendant told me that she's not supposed to talk to celebrities, but wanted to just ask me what game I was on my way to. Like I was like a high school baseball player that dresses at the home gym and gets on the bus or something. It was crazy.
That was fun. Thanks to the levity. Now, on the more serious things, we've had these discussions a lot, you and I, and Allie, and now Carlton. I don't know if you know Kyle, you know Carlton, but he's been around for a while. And, we've been called sunshine pumpers. You had to go through that part of it. People thinking you're prejudiced toward Florida, and you did a really good job of balancing out the show. And now all of a sudden, here it is. The day has come, and I've said this, all the king of the punch, sunshine pumpers. I've said it, and I'll say it again. I'll go to my grave saying this. That game, and probably nobody agrees with me, the outcome of that game made it one of the 10 most important games in Florida field history. Because what might have happened, and Allie knows a little different story, but what might have happened is that Billy goes, and by the way, I'm not down on the hill for Billy. I mean, whatever. I think he's the right man. And he goes, and then DJ Lagway goes, and now here goes the rest of your team, and you got to set your program. It's like Urban 70 went to recruit Tim Tebow. He and his defensive coordinator went, and he said, if we don't get to Tebow, our program is set back 10 years. Mm-hmm. That program, I can't imagine them, although you can build it faster today, to me, it was such an important game, and what a difference in the swamp on Saturday. I know, Chris, you didn't get a chance to be there, but it was really something.
It looked good on television. I tell you what, man, I give our fans a lot of credit because they kept showing up. Every game that I've seen on television looks like it's electric, looks like they're providing that home field advantage, like the swamp was back to what it used to be. And so I certainly give them credit for staying behind the team and showing up when things looked bleak. I'm with you, though. It felt like a very cathartic win. Like it was just a purge of all this like pent up emotion. And then finally getting that losing streak off the back to LSU and having, maybe the biggest win of the season there in front of your home crowd, all the recruits that were in attendance. And I'm with you, like very rarely in life do things live up to the hype. I thought Tebow was one of those instances where not only did he live up to the hype, but he exceeded it. I think DJ Lagway is on a similar course. I wasn't so sure he was going to be able to live up to the hype, but there's something about him. And if you told me before the game, I picked Florida to win because I thought, DJ playing, he was going to be able to run against that LSU defense that had struggled with mobile quarterbacks. But if you'd have told me before the game that he didn't have a single rushing attempt or a rushing yard, I'd have thought Florida lost by 3 touchdowns. But his ability – now, he completed 50% of his passes, but he completed some massive ones, and the command that he seems to have in the offense and the way that he slides in the pocket. I know that hamstring had to be, on his mind a lot, but he's sliding, stepping up on that Badger throw down to the 1 yard line. I thought it was awesome to watch what he was able to do. And you can tell that he elevates the play of those around him, which is the quarterback's most important job, in my opinion. And also, you're seeing these recruits that want to come be a part of what was being created because they want to play with DJ Lagway, which is awesome to see that you have this guy.
You want to play with DJ Lagway? I would.
I'd love to play with DJ Lagway. Yeah, he's got that it factor, man. He's a humble kid, too, man. I did that interview with he and Graham Mertz in the preseason for Florida Victorious. And, man, I can't say enough about Graham and what he's done. Like, people probably forget about Graham far before they should. But the lasting legacy that he will leave at the University of Florida is the tutoring and taking DJ Lagway under his wing and what he's been able to, like, he looks like a totally different quarterback, as you would expect from what I saw in camp during some of the practices I attended to where he is now. And I can guarantee you a lot of that has to do with Graham Mertz. And a lot of players, sometimes when they get hurt, they don't want to be around the program, especially a guy that's on his way out. This dude is there on the sidelines. He's there at practice. He's, with DJ. Like, I just can't say enough about what Graham has done for this program, and I hope fans recognize that too.
Good points. I'm going to just throw this at you and get back to get Carlson and Allie back in here. But I think it was Carlson who said this. If there was a knock on Lagway, is that his progression started at the bottom, started at the short throws and went to the top. Then now he reaches the opposite. He looks long first and comes back, which I guess that's you, Carlson. Did you say that?
No, I said I didn't like his mechanics.
No.
Oh, his throwing motion is terrible. I'll say that. Like
his footwork's not very good either.
Yeah, I don't know if you'd want to mess with the throwing motion. But I'm with you on the footwork too. But yeah, the hard part about doing what we do is, like, I don't know what they're teaching in the meeting rooms. I don't know what the progressions are. I don't know what the points of emphasis are. It's hard to tell. Sometimes are we assigning blame to a receiver here? Or are we assigning blame to a quarterback? Like, there's a lot, unless you're in those meeting rooms and understand what's taught, that you kind of are guessing at. But I have a hard time. He seems to love that deep throw. So I have a hard time believing he was ever, intrigued with throwing the underneath stuff. He throws that deep ball as well as I've seen a quarterback throw it. And there's an art to it. Obviously it's the anticipation. It's being able to get it out there. But the trajectory is a big part of it. It's like being a three-point shooter. If you shoot too flat, you minimize the opportunity. You got to be more perfect with it. But putting the air under it that he does is awesome as a receiver, to be able to run under it. And a receiver's job is to be able to hold a guy off. To even if I'm covered, if I pin him on the inside and you could drop it over my outside shoulder, I'm wide open. And I thought Badger did a nice job of holding guys off. DK did as well. And I thought the placement on some of those throws was absolutely perfect from DJ.
Allie, I like the way he throws guys open. He really did, and he knows where to put them where they're supposed to be, and the ball and beats up them.
He trusts where his receivers are going to be. There was a throw where it was like, is it, and it ended up being right on the money, but it didn't look like that at the start. But he had the vision to see where it was going to be, not where it was. And Eric and I talk about the progressions a lot too, and he echoes the same thing Chris does, is that, like, we don't know what's being taught. So we can say what we think the progression is supposed to be, but that doesn't mean that that's the way they're being taught. It does seem like he picks the harder throw over the easier throw, but it works like every single time. So
Did you see that? I don't know if you guys got a chance to see it. I was watching it on the All-22 on the plane the other day. On that long throw to Badger, he's got DK wide open on the open route too.
It's such an easier throw, but it is not the one he went with. And again, I don't know if we don't know what's being coached there, but listen, if hard works, go for it.
Yep.
I don't know, Carlson. I can see him going to New York one day.
Yeah, well, I don't like Dustin Johnson's mechanics either, but he's won a couple of major championships. So what do I know? I love it when I watch him throw and both feet are off the ground and he's flinging it and there's a guy on his shoulder pad and it's just a perfect ball right in step with the receiver, a catchable ball. I don't see how he does it. Maybe I wouldn't mess with his mechanics. Just let him play by instinct. As far as New York, I don't want to get too far ahead of the game, but I mean, if you look at that trajectory, Allie had her little graph going. That's where it ends up is at the ceremony.
I would want to change Jim Furyk's golf swing too, but it worked out pretty well, I think. And to relate to a sport well, Carlson. All right, so guys, here I'm gonna let you go, Chris. I know you had a long day, but where are we going here? Is this thing turned around? Is it just a one-hit wonder? What's your gut on this thing, Chris, and where it's going?
I would be more apprehensive to say that, it was the turning point. Had I not seen the market improvement from September to where we are now, how hard these guys are playing. I heard you guys talking about how much they like Coach Napier. it feels to me like it is the turning point, and now Florida's on the upswing. Now you go out there and get blown out on Saturday. Like this noon game scares me a little bit. I don't want to see another one of those Arkansas performances like we saw last year. I think you have to continue to build. Like if they lose, there's no shame in losing to this Ole Miss team because I think they're one of the best teams in the country. But be competitive. Be competitive. Don't get blown out, and please, Lord, don't lose to Florida State.
Yeah,
that's a fireable offense. This is a team that's going to have won maybe 2 games by the time we play. It is a fireable offense to lose in Tallahassee.
You know what's
FSU
funny, though,
may
Allie,
be coming off a loss at Charleston Southern.
Right.
Yeah, I picked Florida to win 7 games this year, and if you told me after Texas A&M that there was any shot of winning 7 games, I'd have called you a liar. But like, it's within grasp, and certainly we know how hard this schedule was this year. Even getting to 6 feels like an accomplishment. But I look at the lines of scrimmage, man. We got pushed around by Miami and Texas A&M. It was embarrassing. I didn't think we were up for the task of playing the schedule we've had. But more times than not this year, we've either neutralized or won the lines of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. Like Florida's ability to run, I don't even know where that came from. As bad as the offensive line looked early in the season, and the penetrating nature of the defense now, like 7 sacks against that LSU offensive line that had only given up 6 for the season was pretty impressive. So if you're telling me we got a quarterback and we got lines of scrimmage that now look a little bit more like SEC lines of scrimmage, I mean, you can build around that, and it leads me to feel really optimistic that perhaps that was the turning point.
I was going to say, I think with the lines of scrimmage, part of the issue at the beginning is because they didn't know who they wanted to play. So they essentially played everybody. And it wasn't until they kind of decided who their starters were and then dialed in on a more narrow rotation that it started to get good. And I guess the criticism could be you should have figured that out in the summer. But hopefully now that they know what it is, they can maybe plug and play a little bit on the off season as they need to, instead of, really have 10 guys try out during the first couple games.
I'm with you. I think they play too many guys, not just offensive line, the receivers. I think there's too much shuffling. I'm with you. I want to find the guys that I can depend on and, spell those guys when you need to. Defensive line, you have to have a deeper rotation just by nature of the position. But I'm with you. I'd like to see a little bit more of that being narrowed in the preseason.
Hey, what could happen if the quarterback had 2 wheels? That'd be amazing to see what he could do, right? And don't forget my man Jaden Ball. He outran that LSU secondary to a touchdown.
Yeah. How about that? Like we've spent so much time crying about Etienne leaving in the offseason. I think, this group of running backs is ridiculously good. And I think that's one of the other things that I look at in Coach Napier and his staff. They do a great job of evaluating talent. The transfer portal guys that you've brought in the last couple of years with Pearsall and Mertz and this year with DK and Badger, and you look at what they've done in the high school ranks. I mean, I'm like Aaron Gates is a baller. I love Jack Pyburn. Yeah, I mean these dudes, the majority of the production being freshman and sophomore, really have me not only excited about the future but trusting in the evaluation of the talent that these coaches have been able to.
Corner and safety.
What's that?
Draquezie playing corner safety. I mean, interchangeability has been remarkable.
I think that's what he does best, is evaluate talent. I think if you got to pick one thing that he does better than anything else, that's probably what it is.
I agree. I do think you'll see some staff changes. I think there's probably some stuff that'll occur after the season.
All right, where are you going to go with that? You're not going to be an offensive coordinator. I agree with Shane. Billy's going to call the plays. That's what he does.
Yeah.
He's going to change out.
I don't know. I thought that some of the defensive, like that was a little weird to me in the preseason with bringing Ron Roberts in and not necessarily having roles defined with Austin Armstrong and what was going to happen there. So
then you got last week's defensive performance. What do you do about that?
Yeah, but it goes back to what Alex said. Like, have these things decided in the preseason. Let's figure it all out before we hit the field in week 1.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'll be surprised if Ron Roberts is there next year, honestly. I think it was like a sorcerer's apprentice kind of thing, and I don't know that that's a long-term solution.
Well, I don't know. If they go win the last 2 games, they're all going to still be there. So they will have a hard time getting rid of them. Hey, Chris, good stuff. Always enjoy the show. I like Peter Burns when he's more humble. That's a good thing.
It doesn't happen often, man. He's like my daughter. Like, just doesn't know that you're supposed to be like anything other than the best at everything you do. Like, PB thinks he's the best at everything, and so he just wakes up falsely confident for some reason.
Yeah, tell us your least favorite thing about Peter. Go ahead and give us a little dirt on it.
Oh my God, he's the worst house guest in the world. Like, he went to Auburn a couple weeks ago for that SEC Now Live show that he does. He stayed with Chiswick, Coach Chiz there, and Chiz sent me a picture of all these used Q-tips in the bathroom and like doors. Like, that's how when he's at my house, the cabinet doors were open, the towels are on the floor, like just completely like he's on probation in the studio because he leaves all of his stuff everywhere when he leaves. So everybody knows the dude has just zero attention span or any courtesy for anybody else when it comes to cleaning up.
That band uniform, though, didn't he?
Yeah, I think he secretly liked the orange and blue on him. He looked good in that band uniform, man. I wouldn't be surprised to see him come over our side.
Yeah, well, there you go. There's your job. Recruit him. All right. On second thought, don't.
Yep.
Hey, Chris, thanks so much, man.
Thanks, guys. Good to be with you guys.
Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
All right, so guys, let me do this real quick. Let's hit on this. Our friends, TitanTheMire.com, and that'll let you guys take me out of here and go with your final comments, and also the rest of the SEC, and whether we got a good thing or a bad thing. I've heard more people complain about the playoffs. They hate this 12-team playoff all of a sudden. I don't even I don't quite understand it. I heard Feinbaum say today it was supposed to reward the good teams, and we thought the SEC teams would be at the top at the end. Instead, we're going to be at the bottom. I don't know. I'll get your take. First, let me tell you what I do know. That is, this is a good deal for you if you need some kind of MRI in short notice, and you don't like going to a place you don't know about, and you don't like having to go wait, and you don't like to leave your work for an hour and a half. This is a place that can solve all of those. TitanTheMire.com, located right there in Gainesville. You can just give them a call and tell them you would like to have an MRI, and what your date and time will be. It'll depend on your office hours. You can custom make the appointment. You can come in during the nighttime, a weekend, whatever. They'll make it possible for you, if you don't have insurance, to pay with cash or card. And of course, they also realize that we don't like getting those little tubes. And if you're claustrophobic, let them know. They'll try to accommodate you. Anything you can do to make it easier. TitanMRI.com. Well, guys, here we go. Do we have a good thing or a bad thing with this whole 12-team playoff? Carlton, you go first.
Well, you know me, buddy. I'm old school. I think the NFL revolves around the Super Bowl. That's the whole goal. I don't think college football has ever been revolving around the national championship. It's a nice thing to win and all that, but there's a lot of other things at stake in college football, regional rivalries and things like that. So I'm not, to make 15 games in a season, I'm not for it. The chaos that they're generating is all for. I'm too cynical to really comment fairly about it, to be honest with you, buddy. But too many games, I think. I like regular season matchups. I liked it when the bowl games mattered. Sometimes we had a lot of controversy with crowning a national championship, but honestly, I didn't care. I cared about Florida Auburn. I cared about Florida FSU and Georgia, and that's where I stand on it.
Hey, Allie, how about this? How about Florida Vanderbilt in the bowl game?
Listen, I don't want Vanderbilt in the bowl game. They're pretty darn good this season. But in terms of the playoffs, I'm a traditionalist, so I honestly, I'd go back to the BCS. We got that wrong all of one time, probably, and I think it works pretty well. But the issue that I have now, I'm always a more football kind of person, but I want the regular season to matter. And I think the way that things are being slated right now, and I mean, maybe it'll change, right? We watched the end of the playoffs last year, the 4 teams that made it look very different than we kind of saw on the selection shows each week leading up to that. But Right now, it is looking like we're giving credit just to straight records, and we're not taking strength of schedule into account as much as we should. And what that is going to do is end up watering down who school schedule. If there's not some benefit to playing 10 badass teams during a season, they won't do it. And then we're going to miss out on some of these games that we've gotten to see this year. Like, think about, we've got to see Notre Dame, Texas A&M. We've recently gotten to see USC, LSU. We've gotten to see LSU, Florida State. We played Michigan within the last 5 years. Like, we've gotten to see some really cool matchups that are going to go away if there is no weight given to playing that tough Power 5 team versus just playing the Sisters of the Blind instead, And so I do think that is going to have to change. I also don't love the idea that a conference champion from a weaker, like let's say an ACC conference champion is ranked 22nd when they win. They get a bye. That just, I don't know. It doesn't make sense. I think it's going to need some tweaking. I certainly don't want to see it expanded past this, even though I'm sure that's exactly where it's headed. But I want the regular season to matter.
Well, I didn't expect to be talking like this here in week. What week is this? 13 or whatever week it is. I can't keep up. I thought we were on our way to something special, but now you have to wonder, as you say, Ali, if it benefits you to have all those tough games or not. And when you're each your young, like the SEC does, you really got a problem because you have no way to prove otherwise. We all know those SEC teams are better. SEC teams are better. We know that. We can't show it or prove it, and now we're going to have to learn the hard way. But maybe have some blowouts, Carlton, in the playoffs.
Yeah, how about like a 63-3 win like Georgia had over FSU? I think that proved a lot. I don't know, buddy. I'm not a big fan of this whole system, but it's what we got, so I'm gonna enjoy the ride.
All right, give me your big take on Ole Miss. Florida got any kind of chance, Carlton?
Absolutely. I've been reading some of the comments on here, and people are worried about the noon start. Others think it's great. I think a noon start the week after the electricity, all the juice that was in that stadium is going to be very difficult to replicate. I like for fans to spend all day in the bars or in the tailgates, getting some liquid courage in them, and then come out very loud. Noon starts always scare me, but they got a chance. They got to get after their quarterback. Then they've got a chance. I worry about Ole Miss's defense though, as much as I do their offense.
Allie, this is an 11 a.m. game for Ole Miss.
Mm-hmm. It is. I don't love noon games for Florida. I never have. I just think that we take a little while to get warmed up as a team. And so I don't love them. But I do think that this is a team that has a lot to play for. And Ole Miss has a lot to play for. If Florida wins, Ole Miss won't go to the playoffs. And that's, kind of crazy to think about. Ole Miss has Florida and Mississippi State left. Obviously, Florida is the tougher of those two. So they feel like if they beat Florida, they're sitting pretty. I do think Florida has a chance. What I'm going to be looking for is Napier has not been able to, so far during the course of his tenure, been able to string together big wins. And, you think about, we won Utah 2 years ago, and then we lost to Kentucky. We beat one, we lose. I want to see this consistent winning. So if we can go out, and even if it's close, right? Even if we don't beat Ole Miss, but let's say it's a 3-point ball game, that's huge progress. And so that's what I'm looking for. I just don't want it to look like Texas A&M and Miami. We got to at least be in it.
Great stuff from Allie Peak Wilbur. Don't forget our podcast. It's on how many days a week? I even forget.
We have 4 or 5. Kind of depends on what happened. We have those three stories broke this week for 3 different guys that committed. So a lot of videos this week, but at least 4 or 5 times a week.
Lady taking care of those 2 sets of twins, and Eric, and also writing. And no, you haven't been writing. You owe me a story though, by the way.
I do. I've been up since 6 a.m. I was at school on campus from 7 a.m. until 5:30 today, doing different stuff for my kids' school. Came home, put some kids to bed, tried to eat dinner real quick, jumped on and did my live. And I'm going to bed now.
No excuses. There's no excuses in baseball.
No excuse. You let Chris leave early because he was tired. Come on.
Okay, thanks, Allie. Great job. And Carlton, keep up the good stuff. You can read him on Gator Bait now. Don't miss it. Carlton Reed's one of the best. Thanks, guys. Great job. Appreciate it.
Good night, buddy.
See you guys later. Good night.
Thank you very much. All right, folks. Let's go wrap up the evening with you. And glad to be with you tonight. It's been a good night. It's always more fun when the team does better. I know if that sounds like being a homer, then so be it. But the bottom line is that the fact is that it's like my friend said to Chris Spears, who I ride with every weekend. Well, again on Saturday, he says a lot more fun, better to leave early, and like at 9:30, you go home with a win than going home by 1 o'clock in the morning with a loss, and that is true of many of you as well too. So I want to tell folks about our good sponsors. We mentioned Meldon Law, who's always there for us, TitanMR.com, and these folks are very special. Renstar Medical Research. We talk about them a lot because there are folks who, in my hometown of Ocala, right here, they're always doing something worthwhile, supporting something in the community. They're downtown, they're a stakeholder, and they're looking after our health. They would like you to help them. They do these clinical research trials. They've done like 800 of them over the years to try to find the best kind of medications for us here in our community. They need you to come and volunteer and be a part of these. You can do it without any cost to you or your insurance. You can get paid for time and travel, by the way, and it's not harmful and not scary. And you can help them gather data they need to send off to get the prescriptions they need to get for people here in the area. So I encourage you to go to Renstar Medical Research and check them out, see what they do. They'll have different kinds of clinical trials. One may be suited better for you. Make an application. If you are picked, you could be paid for time and travel. Renstar Medical Research, seeking tomorrow's answers for the health questions of today. Good show tonight. Good to be with you. We're back tomorrow night with the Orange and Blue Bloods. And I want to say one more thing about my friend Franz Beard and his stepfather, Don Reynolds, who passed away. He and Carlita, I talked to Carlita today, Francis' mother. They had a long marriage, over 50 years, or together. And yesterday, Dom, a Marine and a really good guy, devout Christian, he went home to be with his maker. And talked to Carlita today, and she knows she'll be there with him one of these days. So all my best to Franz Beard's family, and God bless you, R.I.P. to Dom Reynolds. Have a good night, folks. We'll talk to you tomorrow night, and get ready for this big weekend. Thanks.